good morning, my AKA Padders. Welcome to Monday, and just to start it out, I apologize if you're seeing this video on a late Monday night or early Tuesday. There's a little bit of a delay with recording, releasing, and that's because some days I do two. I'll drop 2 videos in a row, but I'll record 3, stuff like that. But anyway, this is depressing. I'm so it's getting to me, this zero hype for Shazam Fury of the Gods. It's getting to me because I'm like kind of going into this Shazam deep dive so we can talk about the movie, the franchise this entire week. And I'm reading a lot of Shazam books, I'm watching some of the animation, I'm watching the original 70s live action show, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. That's available on Tubi. And I'm supposed to be kind of like just getting more and more excited, more and more pumped. Regardless if I'm going into the movie or not, I should be like shaking with anticipation before I see it in any form whatsoever. And the reason for that is like this is a little bit of what happened with Quantumania, where the anticipation to see the movie was so freaking high, and that is because it was littered with all this anticipation, this hype for Kang, so on and so forth. But we're not getting that with Shazam, and so much of that is because James Gunn has taken the heat away from this movie. But I also feel like the movie itself, what we're seeing from it doesn't really thrill. There's no real anticipation, and the real move for Shazam 2 should have been Shazam versus Black Adam. This is what we want, this is what we would expect. There's no iteration of Shazam, no reboot, no reincarnation. Ever since Wiz Comics, cheesesteak with Wiz, but ever since the Wiz comic days, Black Adam is Shazam's counterpart. It's his direct opposite. And believe it or not, what The Rock was doing with Black Adam was absolutely interesting. I was excited from it, and it kind of got my juices going. And what we would want to see is Black Adam versus the Man of Steel, and then Shazam and Superman versus Black Adam. That's a real path, and trust me, people, a Shazam, The Rock versus Henry Cavill Superman movie would have exploded into the stratosphere. It would have changed the DC Extended Universe, now referred to the DC Universe. Thank you, James Gunn. That was one of his better things that he's done so far. He got that extended out. I like the DC Universe. But yeah, and then along the way, with this lack of anticipation for Shazam Fury of the Gods, what do we really have? We have nothing. And it's sad, and it's upsetting. And we kind of have thousands of people that worked on this movie. It's like all their work is already for naught. All this work is already gone. And then James Gunn basically defines Shazam as on the outskirts of the DC universe, but he introduces, we have Wonder Woman being introduced into Fury of the Gods. We already have Superman introduced into Shazam. So Shazam, that vision, that point, that view is right. Shazam is kind of on the outskirts, but at the same time, he's already embedded in the DC Extended Universe, not the DC Universe. It's confusing, and then if we know we're getting a full reboot with the Flashpoint movie, what incentive do we have to get juiced up for Shazam? We don't. So with all of that, my AKA Padders, let's just get into our first Shazam book, our first Shazam material. The reason why we're doing this one is because I just want to highlight one major thing. This is a true Treasury Edition, and this is what a vision of a Treasury Edition should be. Treasury Edition should be a level of art within the modern day that blows your effing mind. If it's not a level of art that blows your effing mind, it shouldn't even qualify for Treasury. It should just be oversized book, maybe. But I thought the title, The Power of Hope, was very ironic because we are hopeful that Shazam Fury of the Gods pops at the box office. It does I already feel like it already has to come back because it's so much of the underdog and I love that first movie so freaking much. I think that first movie, for the magical, the abstract, the large concepts that inherit the Shazam character, that first movie went through the reins and it kind of hit all the right beats while giving us a hero. Just like you just root for the guy. It's really artful. It's really well done for being a big Hollywood bean counter movie. AKA Pad, let's hit that drawing table. Here we go, AKA Padders. Let's clean off the drawing table. We've been working on a new March of Robots sketchbook. This is Archibald Witwicky from Transformers. We're doing the entire sketchbook with the Michael Bay Transformers. Doing that from March. Cosmo Cat, experimenting with some dry brush here. But yeah, let's get in. So these are... Look, there's a little bit of an argument. Are these comic books or are these picture books? They're a cross between the two. But the idea is that they're larger than life. And Alex Ross really does his career's best work when it comes to regularly and coherently depicting his subject. Because Alex Ross usually he kind of just only does covers now. He doesn't do anything within the guts. So it is it's a pleasure to be able to see Alex Ross work with his subject through and through, other than month to month with covers, and you're kind of cherry picking the cool stuff. But here he's working with Paul Dini. Paul Dini from, if you guys don't know who Paul Dini is, but Paul Dini, I mean, his accolades are there, but he's one of the Batman animated series guys. Okay, I mean he's one of the great minds, the great comic book minds of the 2000s. So let's get into it. So also too, really nice format. I like the gold back. So this is number 3. The first 2 was Batman and Superman. Keep in mind, this is before Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot solidified Wonder Woman in that 3rd slot. If these were reprinted today or done again today, Wonder Woman would be number 3. Shazam would be 5 or 6. I think they would do Flash and Green Lantern before Shazam. But Shazam 2 is Alex Ross's favorite. It's so, we're going to get Alex Ross depicting his subjects the best way possible. Now, I kind of like that we don't get everything in frame here, okay? Because we get to move it around a little. We have our origin. The origin is pretty cool. This depiction here of young Billy Batson as a kid getting thrown out by his uncle and basically ending up on the streets is awesome. The idea that the Wizard was watching Billy Batson throughout his childhood to see, again, Billy Batson's wisdom, but who he was within his soul, and then eventually gets a hold of Billy Batson. Batson gives him the power so he can turn into Shazam. Shazam, aka, is Captain Marvel. So this, and also too, original logo there. So we kind of go into, we just get into it. Captain Marvel's, the Captain's fist struck like jackhammers pounding from inside the volcano. So we kind of get, so all the time too, I was always under the impression that Alex Ross really didn't do action too well. But this opens literally with Shazam pounding a tunnel inside of a volcano, gets a giant boulder, and then, again, action. Throws, we need that right here, throws the boulder, check out the splash, saves the day, saves the town, right here. So keep in mind, you might look at this and your mind might boggle, but Alex Ross is he's so skilled in what he has to eyeball versus what he has to measure. And if you look at the town underneath, you can kind of see where some of the vanishing lines fade away. They get blurry and they kind of pick back up because he's depicting the terrain dipping, rising and dipping. So sometimes you're going to have vanishing points and sometimes you're not. And he's really good in determining that. But essentially we get a montage of Shazam doing Captain Marvel things, kicking butt, saving lives, doing one. So this is right here too. This is like his Astro City #1 cover, but this is also signature Alex Ross at the time, where it was like from the viewpoint of us, the viewpoint of the viewer, of the common man, we would look up and see the gods. And that's really what Alex Ross's trademark was at the time. Now it's way more illustrative. This I love. So we basically set up Billy Batson as a young radio reporter. This puts him in very much too like the Samaritan in Astro City, but this puts Billy Batson in the flow of the news, so he's able to know what's going on because he's a superhero. And on the way out, his boss basically tags him, and she's like, look, you have this giant, like, people have been sending, you do these stories about Shazam, people have been sending Shazam all of these letters, and he hauls everything home. And it's a great line in here where he's like, this bag was so heavy, I wanted to turn into Shazam to bring it home. But he's like, I can't do it. Being Shazam is a privilege. I'm being, like, basically saying I'm being selfish if I turn into Shazam. And I believe this is a Flash Gordon reference there. Feel free to fact check me on that. But yeah, so he reads all of these letters, and he eventually comes across one about these kids in a hospital, and they've drawn pictures out of not only him, but of the Shazam family, so that's a good little Easter egg here. And he basically he realizes, he's like, I gotta maybe do a little bit more with my powers. I have to try and reach people. Also, maybe oddly egotistical, or is he just doing this to throw people off, having an autographed picture of Shazam on his work desk, because he is Shazam. But basically, the wizard summons him, and the wizard summons him, and he's like, look, you're going to meet someone that needs help, that needs hope, and they're going to leave. And you kind of, you will encounter this person. So he kind of goes on this mission, and he thinks one of them is this kid from this hospital. So he goes to the hospital, saves the girl, starts talking to the kids, and he basically tells the kids, he's like, look, whatever you guys want to do, we will do. Now, Alex Ross is Alex Ross, and some of his faces just seem like a little too well rendered. They seem too pasted on. Not enough like imagination in some of the faces and features. They do stand out a little. But yeah, so he just gives these kids, makes a deal with them. Because, like, it kind of hints that some of these kids are, they're terminal, like, they're going to die soon, like, Make-A-Wish type stuff. But he focuses on his kid in the wheelchair, and the kid in the wheelchair just wants nothing to do with him. And he's like, this is maybe the kid. This is maybe the person that's going to leave. I'm going to have to help. So, yeah, so he meets the kids. Awesome Captain Marvel reference right there. Old comic book. Yeah, and we get this awesome montage. He's literally juggling bears right here. Train stop. Fighting a giant robot. Doing all the Shazam things. Meteor shower. Goes back to the kids. And essentially the kids want to be rescued. They want to be on one of his adventures. That's their big hope. But along the way, he reaches a girl that the doctor that can do her operation to bring back her eyesight is in Japan, and there's no way to do this, and it's time sensitive. So he flies to Japan, gets everyone to help him. He locates the doctor, pitches everything to the doctor, puts the doctor in a car, and just basically brings the doctor to the US. They cure the girl, and he kind of now, the kids, whatever they want to do, some of them want to see the jungle, some of them want to go underwater, some of them want to fly, whatever. See what I mean about like how some of the faces just look like pasted on. But here too, here's that trick. See, look, vanishing point here, curvature, vanishing point here. Like, you don't have to go crazy sometimes when you put in those details. You just have to have a good eye for it. But yeah, so he puts all the kids in the van and brings them, this is no joke here, in a van down by the river. Essentially, these guys are mining ore illegally. The dam starts to crack. Shazam encounters these thieves / terrorists. One of them panics. They blow. They got dynamite. They blow. The dam breaks. The kids are in the car. And he's like, hey, he's like, this is the most irresponsible thing I ever could have done. Why would I put the kids in danger? Why? You know, all this stuff. So he does rescue the kids. Great shot there. But the kids are loving it. And he's like, oh my God, such a relief. So he goes back to the hospital and he's talking to the doctor girl. And he's like, you know, like, I kind of wanted to say something, but I forgot. And that's because she kisses him. And he's like, look, he changes the subject because he's wholesome. Something we would never see today. And he goes back to the kid in the wheelchair finally, and he sees these bruises, and he's like, are they self-inflicted? What's the deal? We learned the kid's also wearing a reverse flash shirt, but we basically learned that the kid kind of like fell down the flight of stairs. That's what his father says. The kid corroborates, and he's like, look, I'm going to go see the kid's dad. So he, as Shazam, oh, no, I'm sorry. He basically says maybe the kid will talk to Billy Batson. So, but eventually he's like, I'm going to have to talk to the dad. But as Billy Batson, he strikes up a little bit of a friendship. Him and the kid, they have baseball as a commonality, and they kind of start talking, and he starts asking him about the bruises, and he says, like, the kid gets quiet, and he goes, look, I'm going to have to go see the dad. Sees the dad, starts asking questions. You can guess how that goes. But then here we go, movie shot here. Billy Batson basically gets shut out, and then he transforms to Shazam. Shazam does his work, and then we're back. But then, like, this is so sad because Shazam actually sees a girl on her deathbed, and he says, like, the only thing he could do with her was to hold her hand and smile. And he goes, you know, like, she seemed to be like peaceful with that, and then like she passed, and he realizes like he cannot save everyone. Maybe he's not doing a good job there. So he goes back to see the wizard, and he explains all of this to the wizard, and he's like, I don't know if I'm being helpful with these children. He goes like, some of them I'm helping, some of them I'm not. He's just confused. And the wizard's like, look, like you're doing everything right. You have reached the right conclusions. And basically the wizard's like, have you figured out who's leaving yet? And essentially it's the wizard. The wizard's leaving Shazam by himself in the world with his power, because because through the children he's learned his final lesson. And that is so, I mean, it's so freaking smart. But yeah, but Shazam flies away from the Citadel, from the cave in the mountain. And essentially, as we wrap it up, him as Billy Batson meeting up with the kid in the neighborhood to have a catch. Because he's bringing hope to the kid as Billy Batson, not as Shazam. Shazam doesn't affect the kid, but Billy Batson does. And people, that is holy shit. That is comic book storytelling right there. This is one of the absolute best like stories, maybe non-origin, the best Shazam story ever told. This is incredible. Alright, so we get this, and next up is going to be this guy, what we all consider, all of us, the AKAPaders out there and me, the power of Shazam. This is the greatest Shazam work in human history. Yeah, okay, subscribe, support, leave a comment. I know I was babbling there in the beginning, but I just got a lot of ideas in my head sometimes, and I have to let them out. Love you guys.